When you speak to a man's character rather than his appearance, you are speaking to the part of him that rarely receives acknowledgement. Attraction based on looks is loud, obvious, and temporary. Character-based recognition is quiet, deep, and unforgettable. Most men grow up hearing compliments about what they achieve or how they look when they succeed. Very few hear words that reflect who they are at their core. When you recognize his integrity, his consistency, his patience, his kindness, or his emotional steadiness, you touch something profound inside him. You tell him that his inner world matters, not just the surface he shows the world. A compliment about appearance can make him feel desired, but a compliment about character makes him feel valued. Desire excites him for a moment. Value anchors him emotionally. When you tell him he is attractive, he may smile. When you tell him you admire how he handles pressure or how he treats people when no one is watching, something deeper happens. He feels respected. Respect is the foundation of lasting attraction for a man. Without it, desire fades. With it, emotional attachment grows. When you acknowledge his character, you validate his identity. You affirm that he is not just useful or impressive, but meaningful. This matters because many men silently fear that they are only loved for what they provide. When you see beyond that, when you recognize his effort, his reliability, his values, you ease that fear. You let him relax into the connection instead of constantly trying to earn his place in it. Speaking to his character also creates emotional safety. It tells him that you are paying attention, that you notice patterns, not just moments. Anyone can compliment a smile or a body. It takes presence to notice patience. It takes emotional intelligence to notice restraint. It takes care to notice how someone shows up consistently. When you do this, he feels understood, and understanding builds trust faster than attraction ever could. There is also power in how these compliments make him see himself. When you reflect his best qualities back to him, you reinforce them. He begins to lean into the version of himself that feels seen and appreciated. This is not manipulation. This is encouragement. People grow toward where they feel valued. When you value his character, he naturally wants to show up as that man more often. Another reason this kind of compliment is so powerful is because it cannot be faked easily. Flattery sounds hollow. Character-based appreciation sounds grounded. It feels real because it is specific. When you say you appreciate how calm he is during difficult moments or how thoughtful he is with his words, it lands differently. It feels earned. That sincerity is what makes it stick. You also separate yourself when you do this. Many people compete for attention through surface-level praise. Very few connect through emotional insight. When you speak to his character, you become someone who sees him, not someone who simply wants him. That distinction is important. Wanting creates pressure. Seeing creates connection. This kind of compliment also shifts the dynamic. It places you as an equal, not as someone seeking validation. You are not trying to impress him. You are expressing what you genuinely notice and appreciate. That confidence is attractive. It signals emotional maturity. It shows that you are grounded in your own value, not chasing approval. It is important to understand that this is not about saying the perfect words. It is about noticing truth and expressing it honestly. When you observe his actions over time and acknowledge what they reveal about him, your words carry weight. They resonate because they are rooted in reality. When a man feels appreciated for his character, he feels chosen for who he truly is. That feeling is rare, it is powerful. It stays with him long after the conversation ends. It influences how he feels around you, how safe he feels opening up, and how deeply he invests emotionally. In a world that constantly measures men by performance, success, and image, recognizing character is an act of emotional generosity. It tells him that he does not have to be perfect to be valued. He only has to be real. That realization creates connection, loyalty, and a depth of attraction that surface compliments will never achieve. When emotional recognition creates deeper attraction than physical praise, it is because attraction at its core is not built on what the eyes see, but on what the heart feels. Physical compliments are easy. They require no understanding, no patience, no emotional presence. They touch the surface and move on. Emotional recognition, however, requires that you truly notice someone, that you listen, that you feel into their experience. When you do that for a man, you awaken a level of attraction that is far more powerful than desire alone. Physical praise may spark interest, but it rarely creates attachment. A man may enjoy being told he looks good, but he hears that from the world. He has learned to receive it politely without letting it define his emotional connection. Emotional recognition, on the other hand, surprises him. It reaches a place inside him that does not often feel acknowledged. When you recognize how he thinks, how he feels, how he shows up under pressure, you tell him that you see beyond the surface. That is where intimacy begins. When you emotionally recognize a man, you are saying, "I understand you." This is one of the deepest human needs. To be understood is to feel safe. Safety allows attraction to deepen rather than burn out. A man who feels emotionally recognized around you does not feel the need to impress or perform. He feels allowed to be himself. That freedom is magnetic. Emotional recognition also creates a sense of uniqueness in the connection. Anyone can comment on his appearance. Very few can reflect his inner experience accurately. When you acknowledge his intentions, his effort, or his emotional steadiness, you differentiate yourself from the noise. You become the person who truly sees him. That distinction matters. It makes the bond feel rare and personal. This kind of attraction grows quietly but powerfully. It does not rely on intensity or drama. It builds through moments of connection, understanding, and validation. When a man feels emotionally recognized, he begins to associate you with comfort and clarity. He feels grounded around you. That feeling is addictive in the healthiest way. There is also a deeper trust that forms. Emotional recognition tells him that you are paying attention, that you notice patterns, not just moments. You notice how he responds when things are hard. You notice how he treats others. You notice how he communicates when emotions are involved. This attention creates trust because it signals that you are emotionally present, not just emotionally interested. When trust grows, attraction stabilizes. It no longer feels uncertain or fragile. It feels rooted. A man who feels emotionally recognized is more likely to open up, to invest, and to stay. He does not fear being misunderstood or judged. He feels accepted. Acceptance is one of the strongest foundations for long-term attraction. It is important to understand that emotional recognition is not about constant reassurance. It is about meaningful acknowledgement. It is not about praising everything he does. It is about recognizing what matters. When your words reflect his values and intentions, they resonate deeply. Emotional recognition also invites reciprocity. When you see someone deeply, they often want to see you in return. This creates mutual emotional investment. Attraction becomes a shared experience rather than a one-sided pursuit. Many people chase attraction through physical appeal or clever words. Very few understand that the deepest attraction is built through emotional presence. When you give a man that presence, when you recognize him emotionally, you offer something rare. You offer connection. This is why emotional recognition creates attraction that lasts. It does not fade when appearances change or circumstances shift. It is rooted in understanding, trust, and emotional safety. When a man feels emotionally recognized by you, he is not just drawn to you, he is connected to you. When a man feels understood more than admired, it is one of the most powerful triggers of emotional connection, because admiration alone, no matter how flattering, rarely reaches the part of him that longs to be truly known. Many people think that telling a man he is strong, successful, or attractive will secure his attention and desire, but these surface-level praises only skim the exterior. Emotional depth lies in the part of him that rarely speaks out loud, the part that wonders if anyone sees who he really is behind the mask beyond performance. When you acknowledge and understand that inner world, you speak directly to the core of his being. Understanding a man means noticing the subtleties of how he behaves, the intentions behind his actions, and the quiet values that guide him. It means recognizing the effort he puts into things that no one else notices, the restraint he exercises in difficult situations, and the way he treats people when he believes no one is paying attention. When you verbalize that understanding, when you reflect back to him that you see not just what he does, but why he does it, it reaches a place of emotional resonance that admiration cannot touch. Admiration can excite him momentarily, but being understood stabilizes attraction. When someone admires him, he may feel proud, flattered, or momentarily important, but he also feels evaluated. He feels observed from the outside rather than known from within. Being understood, however, tells him that you see the real him and that your interest is rooted in truth, not illusion. That difference is profound because it allows him to lower defenses he has built over years of needing to perform or protect himself. When a man senses that you understand him, he begins to share more of his inner world. He opens up about thoughts, fears, and experiences that he normally keeps guarded. He talks about challenges, not to complain, but because he trusts you with the vulnerability that comes from honesty. This level of connection does not emerge overnight. It grows through consistent acknowledgement of his intentions, emotional struggles, and genuine self. Understanding creates an environment in which he can safely reveal himself without fear of judgment, and that environment is magnetic. Being understood also shifts the way he feels about the relationship. He stops worrying about whether he is impressive enough, attractive enough, or accomplished enough to maintain your interest. Those pressures begin to fade because he realizes that your attention is focused on the real him. That realization is freeing. It allows him to be present, authentic, and emotionally available, which in turn strengthens the bond between you. You may notice that this kind of connection changes the way he communicates. He becomes more reflective, more attentive, and more intentional in his words. He listens to you not just to reply, but to respond thoughtfully, because he senses that the same understanding you offer him is something he wants to extend back to you. This reciprocity deepens intimacy and fosters a sense of partnership that admiration alone cannot generate. It is important to recognize that understanding is not about flattery or constant agreement. It is about truthfully acknowledging his character, his motivations, and the emotions that drive his behavior. You are not telling him what you think he wants to hear. You are verbalizing what you genuinely observe and comprehend. That authenticity is what creates the profound effect of emotional resonance and lasting attraction. When a man feels understood, he also feels validated. Validation is not the same as praise. It is the affirmation that his feelings, thoughts, and choices are seen and acknowledged as meaningful. When he senses that his inner world matters to you, he experiences a sense of connection and importance that goes beyond ego gratification. That validation is quiet, subtle, and powerful, and it cements emotional attachment in a way that admiration cannot. Understanding also reduces the need for him to perform. He no longer feels the pressure to impress or prove himself because he knows that you are invested in who he is, not just what he achieves or displays. That emotional freedom creates a sense of ease and safety in the connection, allowing him to relax, be himself, and show up fully. Authentic presence becomes effortless because it is met with recognition, not evaluation. You may notice that the attraction that develops from being understood is steady and resilient. It is not subject to fluctuations in appearance, success, or external validation. It grows through shared recognition, mutual empathy, and emotional reciprocity. When a man feels understood, he is drawn not only to your presence, but to the emotional space you create where he can be fully himself. This understanding also fosters trust. He begins to believe that you will continue to see him for who he truly is, and that trust encourages deeper emotional investment. Trust and understanding together form the foundation for connection that lasts because they are rooted in authenticity rather than superficial approval. Ultimately, the difference between admiration and understanding is the difference between temporary attention and lasting emotional connection. Admiration tells him he is impressive. Understanding tells him he is seen. Admiration is fleeting. Understanding is magnetic. When a man senses that you understand him, he does not just want your attention, he wants your presence, your involvement, and your care. That is the attraction that goes beyond desire and builds intimacy that endures. When appreciating a man's intentions builds trust and emotional safety, you are engaging with a layer of connection that most people never reach. Many compliments focus on outcomes, what he does, what he achieves, or how he appears to the world. These kinds of praises are visible and obvious, but they rarely touch the part of him that longs to be acknowledged for effort, for thoughtfulness, and for care. When you notice and appreciate the intentions behind his actions, you are telling him that you see the heart behind the behavior, and that is far more powerful than acknowledging the surface alone. Intentions reveal character. When you recognize that a man acts with care, thought, or integrity, even when it is not immediately noticeable, you validate who he is at his core. Most men move through life being judged by results. They are measured by outcomes, by success, by appearances. Rarely do they have the privilege of being seen for why they act, for the effort they put in when no one is watching. When you notice and acknowledge that, you create a safe space in which he feels valued beyond performance. Emotional safety grows when a man knows that you see him, not just what he does. When you appreciate his intentions, he feels free to act authentically rather than perform to impress you. This subtle shift changes the dynamic completely. He is no longer navigating a relationship with anxiety, wondering if his efforts are enough or if he will be misunderstood. He begins to show up as himself, and that authenticity fosters attraction that is both deep and enduring. Acknowledging intentions also communicates empathy. It shows that you are not only observing, but understanding. You are paying attention to the reasoning, the consideration, and the care behind his choices. When a man senses that his internal world is seen, he experiences a sense of emotional relief and trust. This relief comes from knowing that he does not need to hide the thought process behind his actions, that he does not need to mask uncertainty or overcompensate for perceived shortcomings. This kind of recognition also deepens emotional intimacy because it signals that you value him for more than just outcomes. You are engaging with him as a human being, not a provider, protector, or achiever. Emotional desire is strongest when a man feels that he is appreciated for who he is, not just what he produces. By noticing intentions, you validate his inner motivations, and in doing so, you create a connection that is grounded in understanding rather than admiration alone. You may notice that when a man feels appreciated for his intentions, he becomes more vulnerable and open. He shares thoughts and feelings he might have kept hidden. He confides his fears and uncertainties, knowing that they will be met with recognition rather than judgment. Emotional safety grows in the spaces where understanding and appreciation are present. That trust allows him to lower defenses and engage on a deeper level, which strengthens the bond between you. Appreciating intentions also encourages consistency. When a man feels that his efforts are seen and valued, he is motivated to continue showing up authentically. This is not manipulation. It is the natural outcome of feeling recognized and trusted. Emotional desire flourishes when actions are met with acknowledgement, not just for what is done, but for the heart behind them. Another important aspect is that appreciation fosters patience and tolerance. When a man knows that his intentions are understood, he feels less pressure to be perfect. He does not have to mask mistakes or hide uncertainty. He can approach the relationship with honesty and steadiness, knowing that even if results are imperfect, his underlying care and thoughtfulness are noticed. That knowledge creates trust and deep emotional safety. You may also notice that appreciation shifts his perspective of the connection. He begins to see you as someone who truly gets him, rather than someone who evaluates or judges him. This perception makes him more willing to invest emotionally. Emotional desire is drawn to connection, not critique, and recognizing intentions creates a fertile ground for attraction that goes beyond physical or superficial interest. It is essential to understand that noticing intentions requires observation, attention, and emotional intelligence. You must tune into his motivations, his patterns, and the effort behind small gestures. When you do, your words carry weight because they are authentic reflections of what you genuinely see. This authenticity is magnetic because it signals that you are present emotionally, not just physically. Ultimately, when you appreciate a man's intentions, you are providing him with something rare, a sense of being seen and valued for who he truly is. This fosters emotional safety, deepens trust, and solidifies attachment. It is a subtle but profound form of connection that builds intimacy, strengthens attraction, and transforms the way he experiences the relationship. Emotional desire thrives in spaces where recognition and appreciation meet authenticity and trust. And that is exactly what acknowledging intentions accomplishes. When genuine validation lowers defenses and strengthens connection, it is one of the most transformative experiences in emotional attraction because validation touches a man where few others can reach. Many interactions in life are filled with judgment, criticism, or expectation. Men often grow up learning that their worth is measured by performance, success, or appearance. Rarely do they encounter someone who acknowledges their emotions, intentions, and efforts without judgment. When you validate him authentically, you are telling him that his inner world matters and that his feelings are respected and that he can show up without the burden of proving himself. Validation is different from